The next few minutes could change your life. Seriously, listen carefully because you're about to learn some of the signs or things that could cause a man to be perceived by other people as having low value. But here's the kicker. Think about the word perceived because it's one of the most important words that you will ever understand. Many men, yourself included, have massive value, but it is only massive potential until you have figured out how to unlock it. And the word perceived simply means how other people view you. You see, you could have massive value, but if other people don't perceive you in a way that makes them believe that you have value, then you will basically be designated as one of those guys who has low value. And this is no man's land for any guy out there or where you definitely don't want to be. Our society isn't always the nicest place, and society has a set of rules. And if you don't follow these rules, then you end up making life much harder for yourself than it needs to be. So many of us in high school always wondered why it was always the dude who was the meanest to somebody who ended up with the most attractive girls. Or why it was always the ball players and the dudes who had the most perceived value who all of the girls couldn't stop chasing. Now, instinctively, most of us kind of had a feeling for what was going on, but it didn't really make sense from a logical point of view. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, that's just high school and real life isn't like high school. But the truth is that real life is actually just a slightly different version of high school. And we're all still chasing, for the most part, the same things that we chased while we were in high school. We all still want the cute girl and the popularity or recognition, and we all still want to fit in and feel like we're part of something. So the point here is that you can't simply change primal human nature. And at our core, as humans, we will always be attracted to perceived value, regardless of the shape or form that it takes. And the men who have great value, like clockwork, will have a much easier time attracting the ladies, making friends, and overall they will tend to enjoy a better life than men who are perceived as having low value. But once you know the simple things that cause others to view you as having low value, you can take action to change these things and dramatically raise your own personal value. Now, first up is the #1 sign that a man has low value, and it is having low EI or emotional intelligence. Some studies actually show that EI is responsible for as much as 80% of the success that you will have in your life. EI is really just a fancy word for social skills, or how well you can read other people, how well you can read yourself, and how well you can manage the delicate dance of social interactions between yourself and others. So when you're sucking really bad at flirting with a girl that you just met and your buddy tells you to step your game up, he's basically just telling you that you need to improve your EI. Now, some of the most common signs that a man has low EI are erratic behavior, not being able to control his emotions, and not being able to properly read other people and not understanding himself or how others perceive him. A good example of this is the dude in the group of people that you just met who keeps telling inappropriate jokes that really aren't funny. Or the guy whose behavior and reactions during social settings seems a little bit off or uncalibrated. Even men with insane amounts of money or who are incredibly good at what they do can have low EI. In fact, many men who have a lot of potential have low emotional intelligence simply because they don't do the things that are needed to improve this skill set, and it is a skill set. Now, all that you have to do to improve your EI is spend more time understanding yourself or finding out who you really are, why you do things, and spend more time learning how to read others correctly during social situations. Learning more about yourself, like what makes you mad and why, and what you like to do or don't like to do, what type of people you like to be friends with, and things like what your mental strengths and weaknesses are will go a long way to help you improve this. Now, next up at #2 is easily one of the most obvious signs that a man has low value, and it's being a pushover. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to be overly dominant in every situation all the time. That's not what this means at all. You see, all men have both sides of the same coin within them, and there are times when we feel like being submissive and times when we feel like being dominant. But something that low value men tend to all have in common is being too much of a pushover 99% of the time. This means that they rarely make decisions for themselves and constantly allow other men or even women to make decisions for them. But the biggest mistakes that men make when they're being a pushover are not enforcing their personal boundaries, allowing others to disrespect and humiliate them, and allowing other people to easily control them. In other words, these men are too passive. A passive guy is the one who is always on the sidelines watching the game but never getting out there and playing the game. He's the guy that's watching all the other guys make moves while he tells other people that one day he's going to be the one making the moves but never actually does. Being a pushover makes it really obvious that a man has low value, and it's easy for other people to see because all they have to do is see that he never has the courage to speak his mind, and rather than being direct, he almost always resorts to passive-aggressive forms of communication. Now, the easiest way to fix this problem is to stop being so afraid of conflict. Something like 95% of the situations where a man acts like a pushover, or too passive, or too timid are situations that have the potential to involve conflict with another person. For example, you might be afraid to speak up to your boss to tell them that you deserve to be paid more for the work that you're doing, or you might be afraid to share your opinion in front of a large group of people. Now, the best way to fix this problem, if you have it, is to work on embracing conflict. Even if you have to go overboard at first and then tone it back a little bit to recalibrate yourself, eventually your value will increase significantly. Now, next up is the third and the final and easily the most important sign that a man has low perceived value, and it is excessive neediness around girls. Now, by far, the fastest and easiest way to tell if a man has low perceived value is to simply watch how he interacts with women, especially attractive ones. Now, trust me, I get it. For many guys, it's a hard pill to swallow, but the reality is that females are and will always be biologically wired to seek out the men with the most value that they can realistically attract. So due to this primal behavior, men with low value rarely get a shot with attractive females, and since they're constantly passed over for the bad boys and the narcissists, men with low perceived value tend to develop an incredible amount of neediness towards women. In other words, a man who has never been with many women tends to treat every girl that he comes into contact with like she is a pot of gold that he just found under a rainbow. Except there's no pot of gold and there's no rainbow. And all there is a massive amount of needy behavior. Now, the reality is that typically it takes a decent amount of value as a man to enjoy the benefits of having been with at least a couple of really attractive females. And as weird as this sounds, once you've done this, for us men, it's almost like having owned a Ferrari. This is kind of a blunt way to put it, but once you've owned the Ferrari, everything else that's not as amazing as a Ferrari just doesn't really seem that exciting anymore, or that big of a deal. Men with low perceived value tend to act really weird and awkward around attractive girls, and the car example is an easy way to help this make sense for you. If I go to a dealership and the salesman tries to sell me on a Mustang, he can almost instantly tell that I've already owned a few Mustangs, and he can tell by my body language that these types of cars don't really excite me that much anymore or elicit much of a reaction out of me. Now, the problem is that at the core of this behavior in most cases is people pleasing. So the best thing you can do to combat this behavior is to stop trying to please everyone all the time and stop caring so much what other people think. And in doing so, this will help you to become a higher value man, while at the same time avoiding the signs that will make other people perceive you as a man with low value. Now, next up is the fourth sign that a man has low perceived value, and it has to do with how he values his opinion. Something about high value men is that they always value their opinion more than the opinions of other random people. High quality men are men who have a system of values, and they're not going to let other people change those values based on what those people think of them. One of the greatest qualities that a man can have is simply trusting his own judgment or his own opinion and placing that opinion above the opinions of other people. Because what this comes down to is basically choosing to be either a sheep or a wolf. But the biggest mistake here that will make other people perceive you to be low value is allowing other people and their opinions or what they think of you to control your emotions. In other words, the ego of a man who is low value is built around simply being liked or being good or some other fragile thing. And when you do this, you are basically releasing the control over how you feel and giving that control to other people so that they are able to dictate how you feel. You're basically telling everybody around you that you are a man who doesn't even have enough value to value his own opinion over the opinions of other people. And the best way to fix this is to simply start valuing your own opinion and placing it above the opinions of other people. Now, sometimes that opinion is going to be wrong, sometimes it's going to be right, but regardless, you have to trust your own opinion or your own judgment, and you simply cannot let the opinions of other people or what other people think of you or whether or not other people like you control how you feel. So with that said, I hope you guys are doing well, and until next time, as always, thanks for watching.